Alright, how's it going everybody? It's Jacob of the Cleveland Krookodiles, and today we are battling against Ian of the Cincinnati Cyndaquils. Now, previously looking through his team, he has nothing immune to electricity except for Sceptile when it Mega Evolves, so I decided to lead off with Jolteon and just hit Volt Switch to give me the best possible matchup. Now, he did end up leading with his Rotom. I figured he was going to go for just some straight up damage, maybe like a Hydro Pump, so I brought in my Colette, the Whimsicott, to try to take that. He does, however, go for Will-O-Wisp instead, so that was pretty annoying. One of my biggest win conditions this game was to get Atlas, my Conkeldurr, burned so that I could get that Guts boost and then just use that priority to outspeed Sceptile and slow him down. So he does go for the switch here, probably predicting some grass move or something. But I do just go for a light screen because a lot of his team is special attackers. So that would just really help my overall bulk and survivability. So going into this next turn here, he goes for a Hybrid Voice. I take a little bit more than I'd like to here, but I do just go for a U-turn just to get out of there. This team, this time around, was very much built around just, a revolving door of Pokemon, just constantly moving around to get the best possible matchups. I think I had Volt Switch on Jolteon and 2 other Pokemon with U-turn. Maybe even 3, I can't remember entirely. But regardless, I switch out to my special wall, and I just try to get my rocks up. He probably predicted that because of the fact that he's been my rock setter every single week so far. So he does switch out to his Golbat on the Stealth Rocks and then hits me with a Super Fang, which I'm not very appreciative of. Scald does not get the burn here, but that's totally fine. It's, Golbat has fixed damage amounts anyway because of Super Fang, so that's the way that it is. Knowing that he might defog, I decided to just switch out back into Colette. I kind of had an idea here with this one. Just kind of like an interesting, I guess, move set on Whimsicott. So I do bring her in to fight this Golbat. I was kind of expecting a Super Fang, but Confuser came out instead. I did get a little bit lucky with the hacks here by not getting confused. But, I do go for the Switcheroo. And that is going to give Golbat an Iron Ball. So a lot of his team is actually immune to Earthquake, so I figured if I brought an Iron Ball and just gave it to somebody, that would allow Landorus to really just kind of run amok, across his team. Unfortunately, it didn't really come out that way, but you'll see what happens. So we do survive on a little bit left. He goes for the swap. I don't really know why, but he does go into Heatran here, and I was like, alright, well, I could just sack off my Whimsicott, but I think I'm going to save it so that I can eat up a move later that I don't want anybody taking. So I go for a U-turn, and being burned and not very effective times 4, you can see that that literally does like 3 damage, maybe even 1. It doesn't do a lot. So I switch out into Cornelius. I'm kind of expecting him to swap here, but I want to play it as safe as humanly possible, especially with everything going on with like hacks and whatnot. I don't want Landorus to get burned. I don't want his Lumberry to get popped this soon. So I do just click Earthquake anyway in case he decides to stay in. It's kind of like a win-win situation because he outspeeds anything that would come in. So that being said, he brings in the Rotom, and I'm like, alright, you know what? Eat this U-turn then. Here we go. Bam. So the U-turn, it does pretty significant damage. If I do a couple of those, it'll really chip him down to the point of where he can't stay in for more. I thought he was going to Will-O-Wisp here, so I brought in my Conkeldurr trying to get the burn, but unfortunately he goes for Hydro Pump instead. Honestly, that's fine. It does just get straight up damage, but, it is what it is. So he goes for Volt Switch just to scout out what I'm doing, and I believe I clicked Knock Off this turn, just because that would punish him no matter what he did. The only way that would benefit him is if he went into Golbat, which I didn't think he was going to do. So he does go for this Intimidate drop with the Granbull. My knockoff does pretty much nothing, but we do get to knock off his leftovers, so that's always good. So with that, we're going to swap out expecting a Play Rough, so we do just bring in our Landorus, and we get off the Intimidate. So that is always fun. As you can see here, this Play Rough doesn't do a lot of damage because of the fact that we did get that Intimidate. Now again, I thought he might switch out to Rotom, but I just wanted to play safe and hit that Earthquake button again, just to be sure. Because really, at the end of the day, these exchanges are only doing me well. This Rotom doesn't do enough significant damage to really worry about. So I go for the U-turn, and this time I was expecting him to Hydro Pump instead of Will-O-Wisp because of the last time, but he also changed up his strategy. So I do go into Jolteon to eat up the Hydro Pump because special defense is nice, but instead he goes for the Will-O-Wisp. Honestly, that's fine. The only reason it was bad is because I'm trying to get Conkeldurr burned. But at the end of the day, you know, Virgil being burned is not that big of an issue. I mean, its attack isn't lowered or anything. It just has a timer on it. So he switches out of Rotom. I did go for a Thunderbolt on this turn, I believe, just because I thought that he might try to get spicy, try to stay in, maybe try to Volt Switch, and Thunderbolt may have picked up the kill from that range, or at least made it to where he was scared to swap him in to anything else. That Jolteon is Choice Scarf, so I do have to switch it out. So I do just bring in my Empoleon de-Drizzle, where he's going to eat this Hyper Voice. Now, it does do a little bit more than I'm used to, just because I did give him some defensive EVs as well, just because I know that, what is it? Gromble can carry Earthquake, and he also has a Bisharp with Superpower. Like, he doesn't have it with him, but, you know, there's that. So, I go for the setup on Stealth Rocks. He switches into Sceptile, expecting that. So, you know, props to him on that one. And at this point, I'm like, alright, he normally protects when he goes, like, when he Megas, but he's probably not gonna. So I'm gonna switch out, go into my Colette Whimsicott, just to eat up this impending, you know, this imminent Leaf Storm. Like, it was coming, there was pretty much nothing I could do about it. So, you know, I figured might as well just make the best of a bad situation, let him waste it on, what, 13 HP, just because, you know, then he'll be at -2. He'll either have to swap or just accept the fact that he doesn't have as much damage as he's supposed to. So with that, Whimsicott goes down. Unfortunately, that is what it is. So we do bring out Landorus, and at this point, I'm like, I run some calcs, and I'm like, alright, the only way that he's going to even have a chance to kill me is if he's modest max attack, which I didn't think he was. So he goes for a Leaf Storm, and, you know, we survived that pretty well, so that kind of just confirmed that he was timid. And we go for the U-turn. This was a roll to kill, and unfortunately we don't get it. So we get him at 99% of his health. That was quite unfortunate, but it's just kind of the way that it is. Maybe he had some investment in HP, who knows. So I bring in Atlas. My plan was just to Mach Punch, just to get, you know, the priority, just get a chip on him, because Stealth Rocks are up. So he does go in to his Golbat, and with that, his intention was to clear the rocks. So I do go for knockoff. I know that he has Iron Ball, but I figured that without Eviolite, it might do enough damage. Unfortunately, he didn't, and he got the Roost off. So that was really worrisome for me. I was like, oh boy, here we go. Here comes all of this nonsense. I'm like, alright, you know what? Forget this. I'm going to switch out. I'm going to go into Landorus because he doesn't have Eviolite, and this Landorus is max attack and not max speed, but pretty close. So he goes for Confuse Ray, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Gotta rely on the hacks again. Golbat is, you know, kind of giving me some trouble here. But then I remember that the Lumberry cures the confusion, so honestly I forgot during the game too. So we go for the Rock Slide. We don't miss, which is awesome, and we do enough damage to knock it out because Eviolite is no longer on that thing. So he brings out his Gromble, and I'm like, well, can't stay in anymore. Might as well go for a U-turn because we're playing all around that revolving door strategy right now. So we go for that U-turn. It works out pretty well. You know, doesn't do any damage to him at all, but that's fine. We live and learn. Oh boy. So then we go from there. We swap into our de-Drizzle where we're expecting a Play Rough to come through, and of course, what do you know? A Play Rough comes through. Now, because of the slight defensive investment, we do actually take, you know, not too much damage from that, so that's always nice. And here, I was just kind of like testing the waters. I thought he might swap out into Rotom. I thought he might just stay in. I wasn't sure, so I decided to go with Toxic. Also, just to test to see whether or not he was carrying Heal Bell on this thing. You know, the game is kind of winding down already, but you know, just to be safe, I wanted to make sure that I knew whether or not I could rely on status. And so I go for the Toxic, he goes for the Thunder Wave, and that's just the way it is. Now my Jolteon has Heal Bell, so you know I can always refresh that if I want to. He does reveal the fact that he does have Heal Bell, so that's always nice. And I go for a Scald on the Heal Bell, and we get actually really good damage, especially for a wall, and we get the burn, so that was lucky. At that point, he could have gone for another Heal Bell, but with how much damage I was doing with Scald, you know, it would have just killed him anyway. So I think that's when he decided just to go for damage. So he went for Play Rough. It didn't do that much. I actually got fully parried here, so if he would have gone for Heal Bell, that actually might have given him another turn. But, you know, the end for this thing was incoming anyway. There was nothing he could really do to save it. So we do get the burn to kill the Grumble, and Empoleon picks up one of his only kills of the season. Actually, he might have another one, I can't remember. But, so Heatran comes in. And at this point, I'm like, alright, you know what? He probably has Lava Plume as his main attack move. So I'm going to bring in Conkeldurr, and I'm going to try to get him burned. So I bring in Conkeldurr. He goes for the Stealth Rocks on the switch. And I was like, oh, even better, I get a free swap. Like, totally cool. So with that, I'm like, alright, you know what? I'm just going to go for Drain Punch because it's super effective. And if, you know, if this doesn't kill me, I'll recover a lot of HP back. So he goes for Lava Plume. Does not get the burn. I'm like, darn. So I go for Drain Punch. It does a massive ton of damage. So at that range, Mach Punch would definitely have killed. But I'm like, you know what? He's faster than me. Let's give him another shot to try to burn me. Instead, I believe I just clicked Knock Off because I just wanted to punish whatever came in if he decided to swap instead. So he goes for Lava Plume, does pretty decent damage, and we do get the burn. And I'm like, yes, our risk has paid off. So with that boost, Knock Off will definitely kill him. So there's that. There's Heatran down. And now we have a burned Conkeldurr who has a priority Mach Punch. So that I was just kind of going to ride that one to victory here. So we do outspeed everything on his team because nothing else has priority left. So we go for Mach Punch. That one actually would not have killed if he was burned, if he wasn't burned. So good kudos to that one there. So Meloetta down. He brings in Rotom. Same deal with the rocks. It made it just enough to where a burned Mach Punch would actually take him down. So boom, there we go. And with that, I believe the only Pokemon left is Sceptile, and we survived barely on the burn. And in comes Sceptile, and he's dead on arrival to the Stealth Rocks. So with that, that's the end of the game. GG to Coach Ian, and let's chalk up another win for the Cleveland Krookodiles.